a critical piece, and so they wanted to harass and kill any interpreters they could still find. So one of my interpreters, along with me and the other guys that we served with, we helped get him out, along with our Congressman David Schweikert, helped a great deal. Him and his family got out of Afghanistan barely. In fact, he was negotiating with the gate guards when they were still U.S. Marines, hundreds of people at the gate. He went to the gate, waved his papers, and the U.S. Marines brought him in, and they said, okay, get on the plane, you got to go. There's hundreds of people outside the gate, keep in mind. He said, I can't go, I have to go back and get my family. And they said, if you come back, there's no guarantee we're still going to be at the gate. So he left to get his family, and he went to a side gate, but when he got there, the Taliban was now the gate guards, if you can believe that. There's still U.S. Marines on the base, and there's Taliban as gate guards. And so he had to very kind of quietly stand off in the background until the Marines, for whatever reason, came back up to the guard, and the Taliban left the guard post, and then he got his whole family through. So that's how harrowing it was for these interpreters to get out. Because if the Taliban had found out he was an interpreter, they would have killed him on the spot. There's nothing the Marines could have done. So he gets here to the United States after months in Germany, getting verified and vetted, and he spends months in Virginia. And then we fought hard to get him here to Arizona, because I knew the cost of living would be the best place for him to live. They were trying to send him to Boston, and I thought it'd be better to have him here because he's got a support network and the cost of living is better. And so he came here, and I kind of became his de facto sponsor, trying to help him through the process. And that's when I realized the process is all over the place. There's city resources, state resources, there's a million agencies and nonprofits. And I asked, what is the list of resources he gets and what are the resources he doesn't get? And I couldn't even get that answer. And at the time I was an elected official in state government, and I still couldn't open any doors. And so I knew there was a massive problem with efficiency for refugees coming here, getting them up to speed and getting them adequate housing and jobs right away. So we started this process last year, not this last session, but a year before last session, with a proclamation honoring military interpreters, because there was a lot of public angst about Afghans coming here. There's a large wave of them. Some folks were concerned, and so we wanted to make sure we had a very public presence saying, these are our allies and friends, and we will support them with everything we have. And so we started with that proclamation. And then during the interim, I became very close with the International Rescue Committee, and we said, what can we do about making things more efficient? And as we discussed a bill idea, it came very quickly realized that this is such a complex issue, it deserves a study committee. And I know the city folks will agree with me that sometimes the legislature pushes things down that they don't fully think about. And we have a very short amount of time in the legislature to actually debate and discuss bills. So you'll be appreciative of the fact that I said, slow down, let's do a study committee. At least once in my life I did that. And so we decided to do a study committee, and we call it the New American Study Committee. Other states have done this, so we used other state legislation as kind of a model. And really, we just wanted to get all the people together in a room after session, all the state agencies, nonprofits, community groups, members, and discuss, okay, where are the gaps? What are the roadblocks? How can we smooth things out, make it more streamlined? And so that's the goal of what we're doing. And I was very excited to see we had super majority support in both chambers, which was really exciting. This is not a partisan issue. This is a bipartisan issue. In fact, most of the no votes were people that just hate study committees, if you can believe that. And these are experienced legislators, but some people just hate study committees. I love study committees. I think we should be digging into these complex topics more deeply. So what we hope to accomplish at the end of this is solutions. And it doesn't have to be legislative solutions. It could be agency solutions. So we could find that an agency could streamline and tweak things without any legislation needed. It could be legislation. The agency may need state law to change the rulemaking process to do something. It could be something at the executive level too. The governor could be involved. The governor will have a member on the committee as well. So it could be an executive task force or agency solution. So we're very open to any solutions, but we know we have all the right people in the room to find solutions, which is going to be great. And I just want to thank all the refugees who have already come to Arizona and who will be coming to Arizona. The ones that are already here have contributed greatly. I love hearing 22% of refugees are small business owners and entrepreneurs. I mean, that is the pathway to wealth in America, and I love hearing that. So I just want to thank you and let you know that you're welcome here, and we love having you here, and we're here to support you. So thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Flavio Bravo, and I serve as the State Senator for Legislative District 26. Arizona's 26th Legislative District is home to many refugee communities, and I am proud that our state recognizes the benefit that they bring to Arizona. Through the newly formed bipartisan New American Study Committee, we have a unique opportunity to ensure that our state agencies and nonprofit partners are successful in removing the barriers many refugees face during their resettlement process. Together, we can make sure that our state is a place where refugee communities can thrive for generations to come. A priority for this study committee is that we bring the policy conversations front and center to the community. As such, we are kicking off our work with the Refugee Community Resource Fair next Thursday, August 10th at 5 p.m. at Alhambra High School here in Phoenix. In partnership with the City of Phoenix, the International Rescue Committee, Lutheran Social Services of the Southwest, Catholic Charities Community Services, and the Arizona Immigrant and Refugee Services, we extend an invitation to our refugee neighbors to receive support and resources for housing, medical and dental services, employment, legal services, food and transportation, as well as ESL courses. And it brings me great enthusiasm and honor to not only be a part of this new legislative study committee, but also to be collaborating with these historic organizations on behalf of our refugee communities across Arizona. So with that, I just want to say thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Phoenix Fire Department Assistant Chief Shelley Jameson. September 18th through 22nd is Falls Prevention Week. September is Falls Prevention Month. It's a crucial reminder to people of all ages to get educated on effective strategies for increasing mobility and strength. Also, to create practical safety solutions, and they're very easy. We're going to share some of those with you today. I would like to introduce this morning the Honorable Kate Gallego, our mayor, the City of Phoenix mayor. She has graciously proclaimed September 5th Falls Prevention Day in the City of Phoenix.
Thank you, Chief Jameson. Thank you for being with us to raise awareness about fall prevention. This one is personal to me. I lost my mom a few years ago, and as her health was declining, we had two very scary falls. I am not a large person, and neither was she, but it was a really tough time for us to react, and that helped me understand how scary it can be. Unfortunately, 1 in 3 adults age 65 and older will suffer a catastrophic life-changing event as a result of a fall injury. Falls are the leading cause of injury-related deaths among Arizona residents 65 years and older. It is scary, but there's important work we can do to prepare and to adjust environments so that they are safer, as well as to help educate people about how to help someone get up, particularly if you, like me, are in an area where physical strength is an issue and you want to just make sure that your loved one has the best care. These injuries really can be incredibly life-changing. For those incidents where there's not loss of life, we have seen injuries that are very difficult or impossible to recover from. 1 out of 5 falls results in a significant injury, such as broken bones or a head injury. Every 19 minutes, an older adult will die from a fall in the United States. There's also real effects on our emergency response. I'm so thankful to our first responders who are here today to educate our community about these impacts, and they are significant. Every year, 3 million older adults go to the emergency room because of falls, and over 800,000 people need to be hospitalized. Led by our fire department, the City of Phoenix is collaborating with the Arizona Falls Prevention Coalition, and we want to share with you the information about how to prevent falls. Most falls are preventable. It involves communicating with your personal doctor and getting regular preventative checkups to make sure that both you and your environment are fall safe, so you can design your home to accommodate health challenges. For a wealth of information about fall prevention, I encourage everyone to go to azstopfalls.org. Thank you so much. One of our roles at the City of Phoenix is to provide educational awareness and to ask the entire city to pay attention to issues that we believe to be of key importance. We have the ability to deliver important proclamations, and today I would like Jeff Case to come forward and accept the proclamation for Falls Prevention Month. Jeff is a great leader in this area, and we appreciate all you are doing to raise attention and save lives.
Thank you, Mayor. Really appreciate it.
And now I get to introduce one of our great leaders on public safety, our fire chief. Please welcome Chief Duran.
Thank you, Mayor Gallego. And good morning, everyone. Falling is not a part of aging. While the elderly are most vulnerable population to affected by falls, it can happen to anyone. Sports injuries, tripping, hiking are just some of the ways that can result in a fall. The Phoenix Fire Department responded to more than 25,000 fall injuries last year. Almost half of those incidents resulted in a patient being transported to the hospital. Valley-wide in our automatic aid system, it is nearly 3 times as many. As a first responder, I have witnessed these effects in our community. So many of these are simple to prevent. Getting rid of trip hazards in the home, such as carpets and furniture in well-traveled areas, is one example. Ensure there is ample lighting in the home. Especially applies to lighting at night. Make sure stairs are well lit and have non-slip surfaces. Others are install grab bars and seats in bathrooms to assist with balance. Find a good balance, strength, and exercise program. Wear supportive footwear. Have your vision and hearing checked annually. And finally, enlist your family to provide support for you. Falls do not just occur with the elderly. If your children are in sports, ensure they are wearing proper safety gear. Biking and skating should always include a helmet and pads if appropriate. Our first responders bear witness to the toll that these fall injuries can take on our population. As you can see, we respond to many calls every year. So please don't let this happen to you. Visit our National Council on Aging website at ncoa.org, and you will find the valuable information how to protect yourself and your loved ones from falls. Next, I would like to introduce the treasurer of Arizona Falls Prevention Coalition, Matt Carger.
Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the October 11th, 2023 Economic Development and Housing Subcommittee. I'd like to
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, member of the subcommittee. During the citizen comment, members of the public may address the subcommittee for up to 3 minutes on issues of interest or concern to them. The Arizona Open Meeting Law permits the subcommittee members to listen to the comments, but prohibits members from discussing or acting on the matters presented. Members of the public may speak up to 2 minutes to comment on agenda items to be discussed. Comments must be related to the agenda item and the action being considered by the subcommittee. The City Council and staff cannot discuss or comment on matters related to pending investigations, claims, or litigation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. I would also like to introduce our interpreter, Carmen Cota, who will provide a brief announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be providing interpretation services for our Spanish-speaking audience. Please give me a moment to introduce myself to them. Buenos días, soy Carmen Cota. Les voy a proporcionar servicio de interpretación esta mañana. Si desean comentar, por favor, den citas breves, pausen, denme la oportunidad de interpretar. Así lo puedo hacer de la forma más clara. Gracias. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Cota. Okay, we'll start this subcommittee meeting with a call to the public, and I understand we have one caller, Matthew North. Matthew, are you on the phone? Not on? Okay. All right, thank you. We'll move on to the approval of minutes. Item number 1 is approval of the Economic Development and Housing Subcommittee meeting minutes from September 13th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next, we move to our consent agenda, items 2 through 5. Are there any questions for staff on any of these items? Okay, if not, do I have a motion for items 2 through 5?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Now, items 6 through 9 are for information only. Do any of my colleagues have any questions for staff on any of the items 6 through 9? Okay. Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Regarding item number 6, I noticed in the supporting documentation that the preschool attendance went down from 70% to 50% between July and August, and I just want to know if there's any understanding as to the reasons why.
I believe Marshall Franklin will come, and her staff will come up and answer the questions. We'll give them a moment to get in place.
So good morning, Chairman Robinson and subcommittee members. Councilwoman Hodge Washington, it's really hard to hear you in the audience. Do you mind repeating your question
No
again?
worries,
Thank
no
you.
worries. Let me turn the mic up a little bit. Good morning. Thank you again, Ms. Franklin. I wanted to confirm, and just looking at attachment B, I noticed that the preschool attendance went from 70% to about 50% from July to August, and I was just curious to whether or not there was any understanding of the reasons why.
Good morning, Councilman Robinson and Councilwoman. The reason for that is August is when preschool starts, and so it's a staggered start. So some classrooms started the first week of August, some started the second week of August, but it's a cumulative. So August is always, the attendance looks a little odd because we are not fully in session yet.
Thank you. I figured there was a reason for it, but I noted it and I wanted to ask. So thank you so much for the clarification.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, we'll move to item number 10 then. Item number 10 is for information and discussion, and I'll turn it over to Deputy City Manager John Chan to introduce staff. Mr. Chan?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the subcommittee. At the table today for item 10 is Christine Mackey, Community and Economic Development Director, Juan Bratras, a Program Manager, and Mr. Antonio Proto, City of Phoenix Trade Representative in the Northern Mexico office. Ms. Mackey.
Thank you, Mr. Chan. Good morning, Chairman, members of the subcommittee. We are here today to give you an update on the activity from our Hermosillo, Mexico office. As you know, the City of Phoenix does have a full-time office in Hermosillo, Mexico, that practices trade, works with companies, helps us recruit companies, helps companies move back and forth across the border. Just a tremendous partnership that we've had in place since 2017. Today, we're going to give you a little bit of that history and also give you an overview of the activity from 22-23, which I'm so excited to show you. It's tremendous what's happened over the last year. As Mr. Chan mentioned, with us is Juan Batres, our program manager who oversees our Mexico offices, as well as our executive director of our Mexico office, Antonio Proto. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Batres to give us a background and overview of our office. Juan?
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and subcommittee members. Most of us know Mexico currently is our main trading partner with about $20 billion in trade. That was reported by the University of Arizona Eller School of Management. This is every year they publish this report. And the almost $20 billion that you see on the screen represent about 32.5% of all Arizona's international trade activity. And just to put things into perspective, China is the second main trading partner with about $5.8 billion, and Canada is the third one with $5.2 billion. And as all of us know, most of the economic activity concentrates in the Phoenix metropolitan area, and the Maricopa Association of Governments published a report that about 59%, 60% of the exports from the state of Arizona come out of the Phoenix MSA. So it's a very important fact. Different industries such as aerospace, defense, electronics, mining, medical equipment, that's exactly what we're exporting. A little bit of history of our presence in Mexico. The office opened its doors for the first time in 2017. And we concluded operations when the contract terminated in 2018. By 2020, Council provided direction to the Community and Economic Development Department to issue a new request for proposal. At this time, that would include an updated Mexico Trade and Investment Strategy. By 2021, the new Mexico Trade and Investment Strategy was approved. And in 2021, I'm sorry, it was the one-year contract was awarded to the School of Phoenix. We received 3 proposals at that time. And by March of 2022, the city rededicated its office officially. By October of 2022, we awarded the School of Phoenix again with a 5-year contract at this time after receiving just 1 proposal in the RFP process. A little bit of background.
Chairman, if I might just provide a slight point of clarification, just so that you know, we have several new council members who weren't here when we awarded the contract the first time in 2017. That was done through an RFP proposal as well, and Discovery Phoenix was the winner of that particular procurement. So Discovery Phoenix has been our partner in Mexico, in Hermosillo, since we opened our office. You can see their logo on the photo, but I think it's a little blurred. So I just wanted to make sure for the newer council members that you knew that Antonio and his partners have been our partner from the beginning. And then as we moved into the pandemic, it was council's guidance, since we couldn't travel, to not keep the office open since we couldn't travel. So that's why you see us in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, having the trade strategy approved and then moving forward with awarding the contract on 2 consecutive terms. Just a little bit of clarification on that history.
Thank you, Chris. In regards to our services in the Hermosillo office, we assist all kinds of businesses, but for the most part, we focus in 4 areas. The first one is we assist Phoenix and Mexican companies to develop trade opportunities. We foster business-to-business connections by organizing trade shows, sales missions with our community partners for the most of the time. And we also work with Mexican companies that are looking to physically establish operations in Phoenix that typically result in capital investments and job creation. And we showcase investment opportunities to Mexican investors, typically looking for opportunities in real estate, such as development, redevelopment, and also another joint venture opportunities. When the City of Phoenix rededicated its office in 2021. For the most part, the services that I just explained were focused in the northern part of Mexico. We immediately, the team, started working in key markets such as the city of Hermosillo and the city of Monterrey's metropolitan area. We started working on our legacy sectors, the ones that you see on the screen. And we also try to confirm our existing partnerships and new partnerships in order to advance our Mexico trade and investment strategy. It's also important to note at this point that because of the global trends in manufacturing and logistics, many companies, American companies, have onshored their operations to the United States, and they have seen Mexico as an alternative and natural market to regionalize their supply chains. So that has, in a way, have an effect in seeing some new industries coming to Phoenix. Just as an example, one is automotive that didn't exist in Phoenix before. So we're seeing a little bit more the industry expanding in what it is, electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles. So working with Mexico together it's a key aspect here, important to mention. So with us today, as Chris mentioned, is Mr. Antonio Proto, who is our Mexico trading representative for trading, who I have the pleasure to working with every day, who's going to provide us the updates of the fiscal year 2022-2023.
Juan, thank you. Mr. Chairman and subcommittee members, it is an honor to be here with you today. I'm an Arizona native with extensive family and business ties on both sides of the border. And our consulting firm has over 20 years of experience in economic development and international trade. I represented the state of Arizona for 10 years and managed various international companies, and now it is my privilege to be the city of Phoenix trade representative in northern Mexico. As Juan mentioned earlier, Mexico is the U.S. #1 trading partner. There we go, sorry. For fiscal year 2022-2023, the office had 2 outbound trade missions to Hermosillo, Sonora, Mexico, and to Monterrey, Nuevo León. Hermosillo is the capital of the state of Sonora, which is a state directly south of Arizona, and is a big trading partner of ours. And Monterrey, Nuevo León is a big industrial and financial city in Mexico. And it's also very important. 70% of foreign direct investment lands in Mexico lands in Monterrey. For both cities, we have direct flights from Phoenix. This helps us to be able to increase our economic development between both of those states and both of those cities. We also had an inbound trade mission from the Sonoran women business. And the Sonoran women business are very interested in doing business with Phoenix. And I think we're going to be having some good results next year because they've found a lot of interest in our city. With Hermosillo, Monterrey, and the state of Nuevo León, we signed community and economic development memorandums. These memorandums are going to help us have better communication and better information so we can do more work with these cities and this state. Also, in fiscal year 2022 and 2023, we assisted 166 businesses from Mexico that are interested in Phoenix and from Phoenix that are interested in doing business in Mexico. Out of these companies, we had 10 of those companies incorporated here in Arizona with a physical address here in Phoenix, Arizona. And out of these 10, we've already had 2 companies that have located here to the city of Phoenix, and they have already signed lease agreements, and they've already hired employees. So we're getting a lot of trade with Mexico.
And Chairman, if I might, when you look at the picture on the screen for Cafeño, I will tell you that Mr. Batras is probably solely responsible for them coming to Phoenix in the amount of cafeño that he drinks when we go into Mexico for events. It's the first place he makes us stop when we get off the plane, and it's the last place we go to make sure that he has one to get on the plane with. So I think he alone was going to single-handedly support cafeño here in Phoenix.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. We will continue to work diligently to increase community and economic development between Phoenix and Mexico. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, subcommittee members.
Thank you, Antonio. And this information, I think, is great. This is a big accomplishment, and we have never been able to assist 166 companies. I have to say this. And but all this information is great. But what's next? I think one of the important things is that the information reveals sometimes what the direction is, what the new direction is that we need to take. Right. So moving forward, one of the things we want to continue working on is in the creation of the Western Hemisphere Supply Chain Strategy. This is a service that we created for companies that are looking to establish operations in Phoenix, and assisting them in really identifying some of the raw materials that they need. As I said, in very specific industries is key for them to establish here. Another thing that we want to working on is continue building the relationships with key partners in markets. As you saw, we signed the 3 memorandums of understanding for economic development collaboration. This is very important, working with our partners down there. And another thing that is very important, you probably hear over and over, that one of the most important things, or 2 of the most important things for companies right now is the aspect of a workforce, which is number 1, and number 2 is logistics, as I said. So workforce is another thing that we need to continue working between facilitating the dialogue between higher education institutions, and not just higher education, but some of the technical schools as well. So we've been testing in the last trade missions the facilitation of dialogue between these institutions. So with that said, those are the 3 areas that we would like to start working on fiscal year 23-24, and thank you very much.
And Chairman, if I might, I can't emphasize enough on how important this Western Hemisphere supply chain is. So think back during the pandemic, where we weren't able to get materials, raw materials, or components into the United States for our manufacturing companies, or even for just basic services that needed to come in from other parts of the world. As the pandemic had kind of a rolling shutdown across the globe, what we found was that as we needed products to go into our components to go into our products, it really drug things down. And then everyone saw the famous picture, or I should say infamous pictures off the ports of shipping containers that were stuck on ships and couldn't get into the ports. So our own production fell by the wayside. So I really would like to commend Mr. Batras, Mr. Proto, but Deputy Economic Development Director Nathan Wright, who's in the audience with us, in working on this so diligently with Mexico to be able to identify places where these components that are manufactured in other parts of the world can now be manufactured in Mexico, so that we no longer are put at that risk if there is global strife, if there is a shipping challenge, if there are shutdowns around the globe. We're now just one port of entry back and forth between Mexico and Arizona. So I think it not only does it protect our companies, but for the future, it is protecting Arizona. And with that, Chairman, we do have a 5-year contract with Discovery Phoenix for our Mexico operations that continues. This is the conclusion of our 2nd year of that contract. And Chairman, with that, we look forward to any questions that you might have.
Okay. Excuse me. Thank you very much, and thank everyone for the presentation. It was exceptional. So does anyone have any questions? No questions? Thank you guys very much. Really appreciate all the hard work and everything that you're doing for the economy and for the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we move to item number 11 for discussion and possible action. Mr. Chan, please introduce staff. I believe they're probably already present.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the subcommittee. Item 11 is a request to approve the 2024 Downtown Enhanced Municipal Services Work Plan and Budget. Joining Ms. Mackey at the table is Devney Marley, President and CEO of Downtown Phoenix, Inc. Ms. Mackey.
Thank you, Mr. Chan. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, just a little overview of the Enhanced Municipal Services District before Ms. Marley starts her presentation. The Enhanced Municipal Services District is just that. It is able to provide enhanced services to those the city already provides through its budget, but it's a particularly identified area that has boundaries that are drawn on it that then creates a board, creates its own taxing jurisdiction, creates an ability to implement a tax through the area that the city collects and then passes through to a partner that oversees the Enhanced Municipal Services District for us. It is done through state statute, and it is one of the improvement districts that is approved through state statute. The EMSD in downtown Phoenix was implemented in 1990. It has been in place for quite some time. And one of the things I think is most important about this district, not just the work that Ms. Marley and her team and the businesses do in the area, but this is a board that's made up of the businesses. Those businesses set their budget, and those businesses tax themselves to be able to provide the enhanced services within this area. And again, as I said, it's statutorily regulated through the legislation that was provided. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Marley to give an overview on the EMSD for this year.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the subcommittee. As Director Mackey shared, I am Devaney Marley, President and CEO of Downtown Phoenix, Inc. And I would like to pick up right where Director Mackey left off. What is the EMSD, the Enhanced Municipal Services District, which I will refer to as the EMSD for short for the purposes of the presentation. It's geographically those 90 city blocks in the core of downtown. Director Mackey mentioned hard boundaries. They include 7th Street to 3rd Avenue, with Fillmore Street on the north to essentially the railroad tracks just south of Footprint Center, the Union Pacific Railroad tracks. Downtown Phoenix, Inc., or DPI, is proud to provide the enhanced municipal services for the core of downtown on behalf of the city of Phoenix. In high level, those services, oh gosh, I apologize. I apologize, I skipped ahead. So again, proud to provide the services on behalf of the city. High level, those services include the event support, event production, business assistance, especially for our very small street level restaurants and retailers, constant communication to our stakeholders in the core of downtown. That includes not just the property owners, the property managers, and the security teams, but also, of course, the residents, the employees, and the students in those buildings that make up the core of our downtown. Our most visible services are our Downtown Phoenix ambassadors and our always reliable clean and green team. In terms of the work that we prioritize every year, we do look to the EMSD Advisory Board to provide direction and approval of our budget and work plan on an annual basis. Since we're providing the enhanced services on behalf of the city to the property owners who invest in downtown and therefore pay into our budget, it's mission critical for us to have that constant feedback loop. And we accomplish this by making sure the EMSD Advisory Board is made up of a cross-section of stakeholders in downtown to best represent the properties as best as possible. I'd like to point out that the city is, of course, an important property owner in downtown, and we're really grateful for the leaders who serve on the board, along with county leadership. Our city leaders include Councilwoman Stark, Deputy City Managers Ginger Spencer, Inger Erickson, and of course John Chan, Commander Brian Frudenthal, and then County Manager Jen Pekarski and Supervisor Bill Gates also serve on the board to represent the county. At this point in our budget process timeline, the draft budget and work plan were compiled in May as a result of the feedback that we received from our advisory board. The board has also since approved our draft 2024 budget and work plan. I look forward to receiving your comments today and hopefully your approval as the next critical step in the process. Year over year, we continue to hear mostly the same feedback from our stakeholders. Their priorities for the upcoming year continue to include supporting local small businesses while helping Director Mackey and her team attract more non-food and beverage retailers into downtown, ensuring a safe, clean, and welcoming sidewalk experience, continuing to improve walkability, pedestrian safety, and activating outdoor public spaces. We also want to provide support to those family-friendly, wallet-friendly, multicultural events that want to locate or grow in downtown. And of course, ensure our local businesses are informed and supported leading into all events in downtown. Whether the event is big or small, in a park or in a closed street, it's vitally important to our small businesses that they receive the information beforehand in order to be able to plan for the impacts that that event may or may not have on their businesses. Final four activities and the recently announced WNBA All-Star Weekend next July will warrant significant outreach and stakeholder communications as well. Our work plan and budget priorities read very similarly to those, read very similarly to the feedback that we received, and will achieve those goals by continuing to create content that enhances our website to make it an invaluable resource for downtown news, event information, and development, by safely and strategically continuing to grow downtown's diverse event portfolio, expand outdoor placemaking, walkability, beautification, and family-friendly efforts. We'll again continue to assist Director Mackey and her team with downtown development data. And then we will ensure that those communication channels are in place with the property owners, the managers, the security teams to ensure that we have a strong line of communication going into Final Four 2024 as well as beyond. And as stakeholder feedback and budget priorities are mostly consistent with those of 2023, our proposed 2024 budget, as a result, looks very similar. DPI is asking for a 0% increase, and the budget does include cost of living expenses, the increase of cost of living expenses for staff, and increasing hard costs of materials for our field services projects. We do have anticipated preparation expenses for, again, Final Four and the WNBA All-Star Weekend. And we will work to bring in potential non-assessment revenue in the amount of $150,000, which is the same as 2023. And when we refer to non-assessment revenue, that is grant funding that we will pursue, as well as donations that we can secure through special event liquor licenses, because we are a nonprofit. In terms of value add for the city, we try to go above and beyond in our assistance with our local businesses. Of course, with our local and national PR efforts leading up to and around anytime we're hosting a mega event. Public art and placemaking, like partnering with a local building to commission a large-scale mural. We try to attract new events and help to incubate those locally grown events in downtown. We continue our enhanced disinfecting of public spaces since COVID, always maintaining our wayfinding signage in downtown, and we focus on tree planting and streetscape enhancements, especially when we can assist with salvaging mature shade trees in downtown from a parcel that's being redeveloped to help relocate it into a different part of downtown. And lastly, and very importantly, we continue to partner with Community Bridges to have 2 dedicated outreach navigators in downtown, and they are providing outreach and transportation to individuals experiencing individuals experiencing homelessness, and they're able to provide that outreach and transportation to hopefully positively exit them from what they're experiencing in downtown. And thank you to City Council for your recent approval of the downtown CAP team. We are looking forward to coordinating our efforts with the CAP team to best assist those experiencing crises. And with that, I will turn to Director Mackey to add anything I may have missed.
Chairman, members of the committee, we are here today as part of a multi-pronged presentation that you'll see us come back. By statute, there are about 6 times that we will come back before the full City Council for approval of the Enhanced Municipal Services District for calendar year 2023. So with that, we're happy to take any questions you might have, but would you mind advancing us one slide? With that, we do recommend your approval to the full subcommittee for the 23, I'm losing a year. I cannot seem to get 24. I'd either stay at 23 or jump ahead to 25. For the 2024 Enhanced Municipal Services District's Work Plan and Budget.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. Let me open the floor to any questions or comments anyone may happen to have. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you so much for the presentation. I so appreciate the work that EMSD and Downtown Phoenix Inc. do. Before my question, I just want to compliment a couple of things. First of all, you touched on the CBI outreach, and I think you touched on it very briefly, and I just want to say I think that's been so successful, and just that model where Downtown Phoenix Inc. is directly investing in something that the city of Phoenix is doing to go above and beyond and provide it for the downtown community has been so successful that Councilwoman Hodge-Washington and I have talked about emulating it in other parts of our district because it's been, I think just a fantastic model. So I want to just highlight that. And then this past weekend, I got to go and help kick off the Taste of Japan Festival at Heritage Square. And I think that's another example of just how you all are going so above and beyond to bring in more festivals and events and just cool, cultural opportunities to downtown Phoenix more than I've ever seen before. So I really just wanted to thank you for all that. You have a great team, Devney. The one quick question I had, I've had discussions with both of you and the city manager about the possibility that EMSD would include and potentially operate public bathrooms as part of its work, and I'm just wondering if those conversations continued or what the status of that is.
Vice Mayor Ansari, our staff in the manager's office have been working with Phoenix Police as well as Devney's team in looking at what other peer cities are doing in terms of providing public bathrooms. So we're gathering information as we move along. So we are actively working to consider various options.
So is that something, I think it's incredibly important that we have public options for visitors, et cetera, who come to our downtown. Is that something that will be able to be included even if we pass this budget today? What does the process look like to move forward once you do your research?
I think one of the things that we would need to identify is the initial cost, and as well as the ongoing cost of maintenance, which that would be something that we would probably need to work closely with DPI on. So those are things that would need to be identified.
Okay.
And Vice Mayor, if I might, the conversation you and I had with City Manager, he has identified a fund within Economic Development's budget this information is discovered. So it would be sole and separate from the EMSD budget today, but we have identified a fund source within Economic Development that could cover those initial costs.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. That was it.
Any other questions? None? No questions? Okay. Since there are no other questions, do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Item number 12 is a vacant property registry update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Coming to the table are Deputy City Manager Gina Montes, Spencer Soft, Neighborhood Services Director, and Ana Maria Ortega, Deputy Neighborhood Services Director.
Good morning, Chairman Robinson, members of the subcommittee. We're pleased to be before you this morning. Neighborhood Services has been working over the past several months on a potential option to address many of the concerns and issues generated by vacant commercial properties. So I'm happy to turn it over to Spencer and the team to kick off the presentation.
Thank you, Gina. Could you grab me the clicker? Thank you. Chairman and members of the subcommittee, as many of you may remember, we presented the potential framework for a vacant property registry in May to the Community and Cultural Investment Subcommittee. At that time, we received feedback from the committee and discussed our community outreach plans we endeavored to conduct throughout the summer. In today's presentation, we will provide a brief recap of the original framework presented in May, a summary of our public outreach and the input we received, resource considerations, and updates to the proposed framework. We did have a last-minute change in who's presenting with me, so I will now turn the presentation over to Compliance Manager Christina Vasco.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee. As Spencer mentioned, in our presentation in May, we presented a draft framework to the CCI subcommittee to address code violations and illegal activity associated with the unoccupied vacant properties by requiring property owners to register with the city. The original framework would require vacant commercial properties, lots over 10,000 square feet, and residential properties with 50 or more units to register if vacant more than 30 days. They would be required to update their registration information within 10 days if contact information or occupancy changes. Otherwise, they would be required to update their registration annually. Staff would create a free online registration portal for ease of registry. As part of the registration process, we would provide education about common issues we see with vacant properties, the responsibilities of the owners, and resources available to assist. In particular, we would want to provide them with a seamless process to sign, an authority to arrest to give police the ability to address trespassing if appropriate, a graffiti removal waiver to allow NSD staff to access the property to address graffiti vandalism, a private property outreach access waiver to allow Office of Homeless Solutions staff or contractors to access the property to provide outreach and offer services to unsheltered individuals or other people in crisis, and crime prevention through environmental design, and how to request an audit if needed. By offering education and resources on the front end, we hope to avoid many of the issues we see with vacant properties, expedite resolution if they do occur, and hold property owners accountable when the violations are not resolved appropriately. Following the presentation in May, NSD conducted public outreach, which included 4 community meetings, social media outreach, neighborhood associations listed with our department, and the Arizona Multi-Housing Association. NSD also created a vacant property registry webpage and conducted an online survey. Approximately 62 residents attended the community meetings, and 22 responses were received via the online survey. Overall, staff received positive feedback and support for the registry. Some residents also asked about better ways to address residential properties with repeated violations that may not fit this registry's intent. We also received positive support for the electronic graffiti waiver and did get some questions about how to encourage or support development and use of vacant properties. We will discuss these items more in just a moment. Over the summer, we also researched software platforms for online registration portal and selected Microsoft Dynamics as the most feasible option. The city currently has solutions built on the Microsoft Dynamics platform, including the short-term rental registry, and there is no new cost for this system as staff already have the necessary licenses for ongoing use. The Information Technology Services Department estimates the registration portal could be available as early as January of 2024. As discussed in May, staff anticipates no additional cost for standard complaint-based enforcement. This includes proactive enforcement of major arterials as already outlined in NSD's code enforcement policy. Additionally, staff worked with community and economic development departments on possible solutions to proactively identify potential vacant properties that would fit the requirement of the registry. Staff currently has access to CoStar, which provides access to commercial real estate data that can be a resource to provide leads for inspections. Based on the current low estimated vacancy rate of commercial real estate, staff does not anticipate a significant ongoing enforcement resource demand once the initial outreach and education is completed. Based on the generally positive feedback received through NSD's outreach efforts, staff proposes maintaining the draft framework presented in May, including providing a free online registration portal through Microsoft Dynamics. Increased penalties for noncompliance would include a minimum fine of first violation of $500, second offense for $1,000, and up to a maximum fine of $2,500 for third and subsequent violations. To help assist with development and use of vacant property, staff will include an option in the registry for applicants interested in sharing their information with the Community and Economic Development Department to use in providing referrals for businesses seeking vacant commercial space in Phoenix. Finally, due to community interest in addressing repeated issues on residential properties, NSD will create a parallel process to identify and address these repeat offenders through scheduled compliance inspections. With subcommittee approval, we plan to bring the item to City Council on November 1st. We will then conduct an outreach campaign from November to January with a plan to launch the registration portal on January 1st, 2024, with enforcement beginning on February 1st, 2024.
Thank you, Christina. One note that I would add is related to the community support for the online graffiti waiver. I want to give a special thank you to Ginny Ann Sumner, who leads CLEAG, the Citizens Law Enforcement Anti-Graffiti Initiative, who has been a vocal advocate for the online waiver process. And in case she's listening, just for her, I'm happy to announce that following this meeting today, we will be launching that online waiver. And with that, we request Subcommittee recommend City Council approval of the vacant property registry and would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that presentation. And I am sure Jeannie Ann really appreciates that, Spencer. So thank you for that shout out. So are there any questions from committee members? Vice Mayor.
Just a quick question. Thank you so much for the presentation. I do hear a lot from residents about blight issues on properties that are smaller, and I'm wondering if that, if like reducing the lot sizes, especially in residential neighborhoods, is something that we would consider.
Chairman and Vice Mayor, that's a great question, and we received some feedback from residents with the same concerns. So one of the items that we looked at is how to best address those particular issues. And while the vacant property registry kind of has a focused intent related to commercial properties and that coordination with the Community and Economic Development Department, what we proposed is running a parallel process where we're identifying some of the residential and smaller parcels through a proactive enforcement process where rather than having, let's say, a registry associated with it, those properties tend to be ones that we're communicating with neighborhood leaders and we're getting complaints about. So we have what's called a chronic recidivist process that we really haven't used over the last few years. So what we would propose is re-engaging that process where we'll do proactive, scheduled inspections of those properties, so 30, 60, 90 days kind of a thing. So while our inspectors are out in the community, we're laying eyes on the problem properties, those ones that are inside of the neighborhoods as we're doing our work. So rather than having a separate registry maybe for that, we would have this separate identified process to do some proactive engagement related to those.
Got it. Okay. And then another issue I hear often is land that sits vacant for long periods of time with the owners speculating rather than building. Have there been conversations with CED and planning on how to use this registry to possibly encourage development?
Sure, and I think that's one of the benefits of this registry is having more awareness of some of those locations. We know some of them because we have enforcement efforts related to them, but there are quite a few others that may not be as much on our radar. I know our Community and Economic Development Department is excellent at knowing what opportunities are out there. 5 minutes with Chris Mackey, she'll help explain how the entire city works in terms of what all the opportunities are, which we greatly appreciate. But we do think that in having that connectivity where they are more aware of some of these parcels that maybe are not as much on their radar, we think that that will help, as well as our proactive enforcement. While we don't have the ability to generally do things like eminent domain and seize property in that kind of manner related to these, we do have the ability that if someone is avoiding their responsibilities and we are having to come in and abate the property, after a certain amount of time we can initiate a foreclosure if they are not paying those liens. So we want to be more thoughtful and diligent related to that if there are those properties that someone is completely avoiding their responsibilities related to those efforts, as well as to help encourage development of the property.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Well, thank you. Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Spencer, and thank you for for your staff for all the work you've done on that. Vice Mayor caught a few of my questions already, so mine will be a little jumping around. I specifically had some questions about, you talked about running a parallel process with the residential properties, and I know in the original framework was 50 if a residential property with 50 or more units. Is there a baseline that's more that's finite, or it's all residential in the revision?
So we are still looking at the 50 or more vacant units. That is something that we could both obviously take any recommendation from the subcommittee if you'd like to reduce that number, or we could come back after a certain amount of time once the program is launched to kind of talk about how it's going and see if there's a need or a desire to adjust that number as well.
And has there been any thought process on how we would handle specifically for in our district, we've gotten a few calls about certain properties that either we believe the owner to be deceased or they're in the process of some level of litigation determining the ownership of the property. Is there anything you can add regarding how the department will handle those issues?
Absolutely, and Chairman, Councilwoman Hodge Washington, we have been engaged in some conversations both with our police department as well as our law department in terms of how to best address some of those situations, especially when we have squatters or there's some sort of probate concern about ownership and proper notice, and how do we best resolve those issues. We've recently engaged with one of our third-party consultants in law for a specific probate attorney so we can start working on what all of those options may be. So yes, that is definitely something on our radar. We are seeing that more and more, and we are looking for more creative ways that we can address those.
Thank you.
Okay, no additional questions. So then do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the chair votes aye, and motion carries. Thank you very much. Our final action item is an item 13, Human Services Department, and Mr. Chan, if you could, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joining Ms. Montes is Marshall Franklin, Human Services Director, along with Deputy Director Patricia Kirkland.
So good morning again, Chairman Robinson and subcommittee members, and thank you, Deputy City Manager Chan. Joining me this morning is Patty Kirkland, who is the Deputy Director over our Education Division. And this morning we are seeking your approval of the Head Start Birth to 5 slot reduction and conversion as submitted to you. During our presentation, we plan to cover an overview of our Birth to 5 program, a recap of the Full Enrollment Initiative Plan, which is a large majority of the reason why we are in front of you this morning, an overview of our current service delivery model, the proposed service delivery model, what the slot reduction and conversion will look like, and then finally the benefits to that. Specific to the city, as a reminder, we have 3 program options with 3,451 children. We have our Early Head Start Child Care Partnerships, where we contract with 3 child care centers to provide child care to 188 children, ages birth to 3. We have our Early Head Start Home-Based Program, which serves 300 children, ages birth to 3, through a home visitation model, where caseworkers work with families on child-parent interactions and how to prepare our children for preschool. And then finally, we have our Head Start Preschool Program, where we contract with 4 school districts and 2 nonprofits that we collectively call education service providers to provide classroom-based education for 2,963 children ages 3 to 5. In June of 2023, the then Community and Cultural Investment Subcommittee approved our Full Enrollment Initiative Plan. To recap, the Full Enrollment Initiative Plan requires that the City of Phoenix Head Start program meet full enrollment by April 2024 and maintain this enrollment for an additional 6 consecutive months after April of 2024. If we do not meet full enrollment, the Office of Head Start, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, has notified us that they will mandate slot reductions and reduce our funding. We identified earlier this year that there are 4 critical factors that impact our enrollment, which are workforce and specifically the need for increased compensation for our teachers and our employees here in our Head Start program that work in our classrooms, our families wanting full-day program options, community needs in terms of ensuring that slots are placed where the greatest needs are, and then finally language barriers in terms of multiple languages and dialects that are spoken by our Head Start families. Before I turn this over to Patty for her to walk you through our proposed slot reduction and conversion, which, if approved, will ensure we meet and maintain our full enrollment in April 2024, I just want to remind you of our current service delivery model, which is in our home-based program. We provide 90-minute visits weekly for a minimum of 46 visits per year for each family that is enrolled in that program. For early Head Start child care partnerships, we contract with our child care centers. That is for 10 hours per day, 5 days per week, for a minimum of 250 days per year. And then for our Head Start preschool, our current service delivery model includes full-day school, which is defined as 6 hours or more, and then half-day school or slots, which are anywhere from 3.5 hours to 4 hours. And I will now turn the presentation over to Patty.
Thank you, Director Franklin. The proposed service delivery remains the same except for preschool. And so the Early Head Start home-based and the Child Care Partnership would stay as it is now, but the enhanced service delivery includes full school day sessions for preschool children, which was a request of parents that was identified through our full enrollment initiative process. The rationale for the slot reduction conversion is multifaceted. As I stated in the previous slide, parents are requesting a full school day for preschool children. In order to meet this request, additional teachers need to be hired and additional classroom space needs to be secured. Both of these require increased funding. It also resolves other critical factors identified through the full enrollment initiative process, such as increased funding for competitive and sustainable salaries for teachers and instructional assistants, and redistributing slots to high-need areas. The proposed slot reduction is a proactive step to meet the program's needs, as the Office of Head Start is encouraging grantees to reduce, convert slots, and retain the funding. This table illustrates the proposed slot reduction conversion. The top row is the current number of slots in each of the program options, totaling 3,451. The second row depicts the proposed reduction conversion. In preschool, we're proposing to convert 1,006 slots to a full school day and reduce the number of slots in the Early Head Start home-based program by 236. The Early Head Start Child Care Partnership program would remain the same, with 188 slots for children from birth through age 2. The third row illustrates the proposed total number of slots for each program option. As you can see, the program would be able to serve 1,957 preschool children, 64 children in the home-based program, and there would be no change again to the Child Care Partnership numbers. These numbers are based on historical enrollment as of December 31st over the past 2 years. The overall reduction conversion would be 35%, bringing the total number of children served to 2,209. The proposal does not displace any children, as the number of slots that would be reduced or converted are currently vacant. As I stated in one of the previous slides, slot reduction conversion resolves many of the critical factors that have impacted the Head Start birth to 5 enrollment. Again, preschool children will have the benefit of full school day. The competitive and sustainable salaries for teachers and instructional assistants will be met, which will help to retain and hire new staff. And slots will be located in the areas of highest need. The proposed reduction conversion will assist in reaching full enrollment by the April 24 deadline. If this deadline is not met, as Director Franklin stated, the Office of Head Start will take the slots away from the Birth to 5 program along with the funding. This proposal aligns with the upcoming solicitation for education service providers, as it allows for a redistribution of slots based on the community needs assessment. Director Franklin, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Kirkland. Mr. Chair and subcommittee members, staff requests the Economic Development and Housing Subcommittee, which serves as the City of Phoenix Head Start Birth to 5 Governing Board, approve the slot reduction and conversion as submitted. Thank you, and we welcome your questions and feedback.
Okay, thank you very much. So, does anybody have any questions to begin with? Councilman Stark?
Could you just reiterate the slots? You say a lot of them are already vacant, so you wouldn't really be losing children that you're helping, correct?
Vice Mayor, Chairman Robinson, and Councilwoman Stark, yes, you are correct. In anticipation of a reduction conversion, we have limited the number of slots that we currently have filled. So those slots would not, there are no children in those slots.
Well, thank you for reiterating that. I think that's important. And I also think full-day programming is very important. Both my children had full-day kindergarten. It's the best thing ever. So I fully support this. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Thank you, Chair. Just a real quick follow-up question. I am in support of the actual revisions and the slot conversion because it helps workforce development, it meets the family's needs, and it meets the community's needs. I just think it might be important for us to understand it's not the direction that we want to see it go, but what happened if we're not able to get the full enrollment that we anticipate? I just want to understand what would that look like?
Sure. So Chairman Robinson and Councilwoman Hodge Washington, the primary issue that we will have to deal with if we do not meet our full enrollment is the Office of Head Start under the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has been very, very clear that they will come in and reduce our slots based upon what they believe is the assessment, as well as they will reduce our funding. What we have before you allows us to maintain our funding today in order to be able to do what we need to do to address the workforce and affording full days and those types of things. I will also add that the Office of Head Start has been taking this approach, if you will, across the nation. So we are not the only Head Start grantee who has had to go through the full enrollment initiative, as well as go through how we take a look at our slots and what is the appropriate number of slots. And then the final thing that I will mention relative to that is that within our region, we're in Region 9, our assigned program specialist in the Office of Head Start has supported and is supporting what we have in front of you. And it is a Region 9 program specialist, if you will, that speaks directly with the Office of Head Start in DC about what goes on with the grantees within that region. And so we do have support from the individual that would advocate on our behalf with the Office of Health and Human Services about what we have in front of you today.
Thank you for that information.
Thank you very much, and I want to give credit to Director Franklin and Deputy Director Kirkland for all the work that you guys done. I know you've spent a lot of time with me trying to help me understand, and I think I'm a hard student at that, but thank you for all of your hard work. It is helping. It's paying off. I'm starting to understand it a lot better, and I thank you guys for your due diligence on everything. So with that having been said, no other questions, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? You have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. So that's the last item today. And the last item today is a call to the public. Do we have any registered speakers? Not appear to be any registered speakers. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.
That utilities have the rights to access to provide services and do repairs? Is it A, Easy Street, B,